Hi, this is Dr. Steven Newhart with Science Based Body, and this is the Economic Fitness Podcast channel. On this channel, we are going to provide you with ways to keep your body and mind in top peak physical condition in an environment of sedentary work environments. It is our perspective that blood flow is equal to cash flow. And if you cut off the blood flow, you cut off the cash flow. We hope you enjoy our information. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Economic Fitness Podcast channel. I'm Dr. Steven Newhart. We have a great guest with us today. I just wanted to kind of take a second and go back and talk about what the purpose of our channel is here. And just to remind what we're doing and who we interview. We talk to people who have done very incredible things with business, and we like to find out how they got there, and then also just if they have any sort of life routines, lifestyle routines, or just day-to-day practices that help keep them on track with managing everything that they do in life. And again, we have a great guest today. His name's Adam Smith, and Mr. Smith has done amazing things with Harley Davidson, and he has dealerships in the area. I'll let him give you the background on how many he's done. I'd love to hear the background of how the company got started, and then we'll go into any lifestyle routines that he has to kind of stay up with it day to day and make sure that he can operate at a high level. So Adam, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
On the show.
Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, of course. So, okay, let's get started. Tell us what you have built, and also you can even go back to the first moment you thought about Harley Davidson, the first moment you thought about having dealerships, things like that, because that's the real interesting stuff that I love to hear. So
yeah, sure.
If you go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, I didn't start thinking motorcycle dealerships, much less Harley Davidson. I just started thinking when I was a kid that owning my own business was something I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And in high school, set out some goals, some financial goals for myself, and then started from there. Okay, what do I need to do to accomplish those goals? So first, it was just here's what I want to do. You know, I want to be worth $1 million by 25. I want to be worth 10 million by 30. So, okay, what path do I need to choose to accomplish that? The path was a little bit easier because I grew up in motorcycles. I grew up riding dirt bikes, bicycles, motorcycles. I learned to ride a motorcycle before I learned to ride a bicycle. I think I was 3 or 4 or 5. Wow. But my father and his brother, my uncle, were motorcycle guys and motorcycle dealers on the Honda, Yamaha, and pretty much anything non-Harley when I was growing up. So I was around motorcycles. I was around the business, and my dad was an entrepreneur, and my uncle was an entrepreneur. Okay. I spent a lot of time with him as a kid fishing. So you're just constantly around that kind of mindset. So Harley started really taking off, or kind of the genesis of takeoff was the late 80s, and that just looked like a really good opportunity for the next 10, 20, 30 years. So got into the Harley business in 1991. So that will be spring of 91. So it'll be 31 years I think it was March or April of 91. And kind of worked through each department, right? I spent time in the service department, in the vehicle sales department, the parts department, inventory control. So I kind of got a grasp of every single job that was done inside of the dealership. And then an opportunity to open a new Harley-Davidson dealership location in Grand Prairie opened up in 1995. And there was no way I was not going to get that. So
sure,
yeah, there was no way I wasn't going to get it.
And so I had the pleasure of you speaking to my class at school.
That's right.
And you came in and you did a little spiel on that. And I remember you telling us about your capital raise and how it was, hey, here's a business plan, and I've got to go bang to bang until somebody just says yes.
Kind of like that. First, I need to get the letter of intent from Harley, right? They have to say, you're going to be our guy. Yeah. So, I just went to Milwaukee and just stayed there until I got in front of the decision maker. So I was there for like 3 days waiting for him to talk to me.
It's amazing.
So I didn't have anything. It's easier.
People wouldn't do that.
Well, it's easier when you don't have anything to lose, right?
Sure,
and ignorance is bliss, right? Yeah. You don't really realize how stupid that is until much later in life, right? But anyway, so somehow convince them that I'm the guy. And then you've got that letter of intent, right? Mm-hmm. So then you can go to lenders and say, all right, I have this valuable thing. Now I need money to build a building, get fixtures, get signage, blah, 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 all the things to start a business. So my strategy was first just go to a couple of banks that I knew I had zero shot at, right?
Yeah.
One of them was called Bank One. It was a really big
I remember
chain of banks way back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way they're going to give me a loan, but that's good practice. I can go there, apply, hear their questions, get turned down, ask why I got turned down. So I would be better at it when I went to the banks that I thought I had a shot at.
Right.
So that was kind of my strategy, and it worked.
So how many did you go to before that?
Well, I did Bank One. I can't remember the second one I went to that I thought I had a shot at, and I got shot down immediately. But I thought, okay, what I need to do is go to a much smaller bank where I can talk to a decision maker, and that was American Bank of Waco. It's a 2-branch, privately owned, family-owned bank in Waco, and went and talked to them and laid out the plan, and they gave me a loan they probably shouldn't have given, but
it worked out for them.
It worked out for them because they were the only bank I used for 96 to about a year and a half ago.
Wow.
So they have done
really
quite well on
them.
that. Yeah, worked out for both of us.
It wasn't just that initial that came back to me.
But we got to a size where that bank just isn't big enough for the kinds of things that we're doing now. So
sure,
had to add a different bank.
So okay, you did all these these are things that outliers do. Where you take these chances, you take these risks, you do what has to be done to get where you need to be. But at the same time, learning, and I'm listening to everything you said about your history and your background. Learning to ride a dirt bike from 3 or 5, my son's 4. I couldn't imagine. And what size was this dirt bike? It had to be
a 50cc. I think it was a Honda Z50 was the first thing. Yeah.
Are those smaller?
Oh yeah, they're small. I couldn't get on it, so we put like some railroad ties in a row. So I would stand on it, right, and then kind of jump on it and go. And then when I was done, I'd come back around and kind of jump off, so I could get on the railroad ties to get off of the bike without falling over.
And I believe you told me that you got involved in road biking at age 12 until a certain age as well.
Yeah, when I was around 12, maybe 11. I got into road cycling and got really serious about it until I was probably a freshman or sophomore in high school, because I was driving. That meant I could work, and you were working on Saturday because I was in retail. And when you work on Saturdays and can't race on Saturdays, then you start asking, why am I training when you can't race? Because races are the fun part.
Right.
Yeah.
So you may have said this already. How many dealerships are there now?
Oh yeah, sorry. So I'm at 6 Harley Davidson dealerships, all in Texas, and then we have 2 pre-owned motorcycle dealerships called Lucky Penny Cycles.
Oh, okay.
One here in Dallas-Fort Worth and one in Houston.
I think I've seen that actually.
Yep. It's right next to my Harley store in Bedford, Texas Harley.
I know what you're. So okay, so Lucky. What's it called? Lucky
Penny Cycles.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And is that motorcycles or is that bicycles?
Yeah, it's all motorcycles, all pre-owned, all makes, all brands.
Okay. Great. Congratulations on that.
Yeah,
that's a really big deal. That's huge. And as you were talking about Harley Davidson in 1980, when it was really
about 88, 87, 86, right in there, there was an ownership change, a corporate ownership change, and then a new chassis and a new engine developed with that ownership change that really catapulted them into where they are today.
Well, it's a lifestyle.
Most of Harley's brand value is intangible. It's not an actual thing you can hold, which I think is more valuable than something that you can actually hold.
Yeah, it's an amazing. I know you met my wife before this, and my father-in-law, her father, he loves Harley Davidson. It's his brand, and he loves to have them, and he loves riding them, and so it's a lifestyle for him, definitely.
There are very few brands in which the customers get a tattoo of it on them. Right.
But there's a lot.
Yeah, but there's a lot
of those.
Yeah, maybe some football franchises have some tattoos on them, and Harley Davidson's got a whole. It's hard to find a Honda or a Yamaha or a Kawasaki tattoo. There just aren't many of them out there.
Well, see, that's an interesting way to put it, because that's true too, and I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
So okay. Obviously, I'm hearing exercise, of course, riding, road bikes. What else? What kind of routine do you keep? Because now 6 dealerships, and I think you were telling me between there's 40 salespeople alone. How many employees do you have now?
Well, we have team members, not employees.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. We're right around 200 total.
Okay.
Across all the locations.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're managing, at some level, you're managing all of them. What do you do to make sure you can keep sharp to do all this?
Yeah, it's a very different thing to manage one location on your own than 8, right? It's a completely different skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the important things to do as you evolve from 1 to 8 is start hiring the things that you are deficient at, right? We have a tendency to hire ourselves over and over again.
Sure.
Instead of what you should be doing is hiring, someone that has all the skill sets that you don't have, that complement what you don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a different business from 1 to 3, and it's a different business from 3 to 5, and it's a different business from 5 to 8. It's different skill sets. Oftentimes, the entrepreneur wants to keep control of the whole thing, right? Because it's my baby. Well, guess what? You aren't qualified to do that,
of course,
because you have an entrepreneurial mindset, and that rarely is a mindset or a skill set that is good for day-to-day execution, right? Mm-hmm. Accountability on a bunch of levels at a bunch of locations. Yeah. It's one thing when you're inside your own building all day, and you can you can keep an eye on everything, right? But when you got 8 of them, you have to have processes, procedures, and discipline, and that takes some other person to install all of those things, because the entrepreneur rarely has that kind of skill set.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. But how about your health regimen?
Yeah, sure.
For your personal body. And that is an interesting way of looking at hiring. But what are you doing day to day? I mean, I from what I've heard, you have a gym in your home.
Yes, sir.
So exercise is important.
Yep.
What's your health regimen like? What do you do on a regular basis?
Well, I think discipline has a lot to do with rate of success, especially when you own your own business. And that discipline, whether it's physical activity or that discipline is in your business, it translates. So what I do is, when I was younger, I read a ton of books. I loved biographies and autobiographies, and I started picking up patterns, regardless of who the author was or who the story was, about how they lived their life. And almost all of them were morning people, right? They almost all woke up early in the morning, got their workout in. And another thing that I recognized was boredom pays off in the end, right? When you work out every single day, month after month, year after year, it pays off. When you drink plenty of water every single day, day after day, month after month, it pays off. When you take care of your skin, when you take care of your body, when you take care of your sleep, when you don't get drunk all the time, or you don't do, right? All of these things are boring, but when you get into your 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, it pays off. And it pays off in your business too, because your team and your customers are looking at you, and they're a reflection of you. Right? So if they see that you've been out too late on a Friday night, and you come in late on a Saturday morning, which Saturday's our big day, then guess what? They feel like they can. The boss is doing it. I can do it.
Sure.
If you show up fresh and ready to go, then so are they.
And then to shift back at 6 locations, I guess you have to hire people that are also willing to make those sacrifices as well.
To a degree, right? I mean, one thing I learned really early on is almost all of the people that work for you are not going to care to the same degree you are. At first, that breaks your heart, right? Because you want them to, but then you realize they're not going to for a reason, because it's not their thing, right? If it was their thing, they would. So you just have to realize you have to have some, I don't know what the right word is, but flexibility on that kind of thing. Not too much, but somewhat.
Do you have any specific eating regimen that you like to follow? A lot of the people.
Well, I just had a cheeseburger and fries, so I can't be a hypocrite and say I had a grilled salmon salad.
A lot of the guys that I've had on have talked about, cutting sugar out, because they say, hey, if I eat too much sugar, I can't focus. I had a brain fog event. I had this, I had that. Do you have anything that you like to stick to with that?
I don't know. On the eating thing, it's kind of like anything, right? I mean, I want to live, right? I want to be happy with my life, so it's a balance. Where I will allow myself to have a cheeseburger and fries today, but tomorrow, the working out consistently helps, right? Drinking plenty of water helps. But it's all right. Today lunch was one thing, but tonight dinner is going to be a different thing, right? I'm going to balance that out.
Of course.
And tomorrow and the next day are going to be healthy days, so that you can stay relatively in shape. But I want to enjoy food. I want to enjoy my life.
Are you an everyday exerciser?
I maybe miss, out of 365 days a year, I maybe miss 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's either a travel day, there's just for some reason, I just can't get it done. I'm a morning guy. So usually if I don't get my morning workout done in the morning, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. How early do you get up?
Yeah, that was another thing. Most of the guys or people that I read about, they were morning people. So they'd wake up somewhere between 5 and 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in the gym before 7 a.m. I mean, usually I'm there at 6.
Yeah.
I want to also make sure that I comment that there's more than one winning way. I mean, I know guys and gals that own their businesses that they are not morning people, right? They're night folks, and that works for them, and that's okay. I think it's important to pattern after folks that you naturally are drawn to.
That's right.
Right? You can steal an idea from that person and apply it to your life, but then that person does it that way, and that works for them. But I can already tell you that the cold shower thing, you got to take a
Oh my gosh!
I don't care what the health benefits are. I'm not doing it. You could tell me that I would have zero inflammation for the rest of my life. I'm not taking a cold shower. It's not.
I actually had to not that long ago. I can't remember what happened. For some reason, our water heater was not working. And it was like, I felt like I got sick that day. I was like, I think I'm sick already. It was like immediate. You know, my whole body shivered all day. It was already a little, it wasn't hot outside. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't know where that.
I'm sure the health benefits are real. I'm just not going to ever realize them.
I don't know. You think back to sort of like natural living and all that. I mean, unless you're living in, I don't know, Antarctica or something where it's always freezing. Are you going to have a daily regular freeze like that? I don't think that you are.
Again, people that try to sell me on that, I'm like, I believe you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I'm not going to.
I'm not going to do it. Have you ever done a cryotherapy?
I've done that a few times. I had an elbow issue, and I was at the point of I'll try anything. So it was acupuncture. When you get to acupuncture and cryotherapy, that's when you realize you're kind of at the end of the chain of things you could try.
Did that work?
No, it did not.
What made it go away?
A shot. I had to go back to regular medicine and get a shot.
I have found it useful to submerge in freezing water, not your whole body, but like a limb. I've got an elbow. Let's dip the whole thing in there and let's keep it in there 15 minutes and maybe that'll help. And for me that does, for whatever reason. The cold, I'm just don't put it all over my body. At the same time.
I didn't mind it. It wasn't that horrible. It doesn't last that long. It just didn't do what I was hoping it to do. Hoped it would do. I mean, maybe it had other kind of benefits to it, but I wanted my elbow to stop hurting when I lifted weights.
I'm sure. So what's the future look like? What are your sound like a very goal-oriented guy. What are you looking for at the future? You've got 6 dealerships now. They're all
8.
Oh, my fault.
Yeah.
They're all rocking. And
no, they're not. Okay, I want to make that point. So it's like people are like, hey, how are the stores? Like, it's like having, if I don't have kids, but it'd be like having 8 children.
Mm-hmm.
They never all behave at the same time, right? There's always a couple that are doing something they shouldn't do. So I don't want to put off the facade that everything's awesome all the time, because that is not true. And I don't care whose business it is. That is not true. And one thing that's important to know is that going from one location to 2 locations does not double your income.
Right.
It triples your pain in the neck, but does not necessarily double your income. And it's easy to make that correlation between, well, I've got this one location that makes $2 million. Well, 2 locations means $4 million.
Right.
That is not what that means.
Yeah. So are you stopping at, is 8 maybe the number?
Well, no. So in our industry, and I think it's just starting to happen. It's kind of like the auto business maybe 20 years ago when there was lots of consolidation. Mm-hmm. Some big money starts moving into that sector and starts consolidating. So what you have to do is either partner up with one of those consolidators so you can continue to grow and not be at a competitive disadvantage financially, technologically, and intellectually, or stay really, really small.
Yeah.
Right. So I either need to go backwards, or I need to partner up with someone to help take it to the next level. Because right now, historically, all of my stores, I was one of the bigger Harley Davidson owners. But in 10 years, if I stayed the same, I would absolutely not be. So I think if I stay where I'm at, I would get murdered. So I either need to grow or I need to shrink.
I guess you say have to move, right? It's always just move in some direction, but don't stand still.
And every entrepreneur needs to realize when the game has passed them by, right? Because you cannot have your fastball at 100 miles an hour for the duration of your life. It just doesn't work that way. So, and that's a very hard thing for an entrepreneur to admit, that the game has passed me by, either because it has advanced beyond your skill set or your interest level or whatever. But you need to know when it's time to bring in the next wave of talent to take it to the next level.
Also good advice.
Yeah, well, it's hard. It's a big ego thing, right? Because entrepreneurs are highly driven by ego, right? And it takes you owning up to, okay, I don't have it the same way I used to have it.
Yeah. And asking for help, maybe, something like that.
Well, a lot of it has to do with the hunger, right?
Yeah.
Because early on, you don't have much money to work with, and you are really driven to make this succeed. And after a while, over time, if you survive a couple of near-death experiences in your business, and every business, if you're going to own your own business for 20, 30, 40 years, there's going to be a near-death where your business is teetering, right? After you survive one or two, or hopefully not three of those, you start thinking about what you have to lose, right? So you kind of lose the hunger, you lose the drive. And once you kind of lose that edge, then you've lost your fastball.
Or maybe sometimes, and I think maybe the smart part of because you early on we're all driven by a dream and and this and that, and your dream has taken you to a really good spot. We're driven by that dream. Maybe at some point the reality of it kicks in and goes, hey. After the third, you're like, oh, wait, real world, I've done something amazing here.
Yeah.
Maybe I just need to, it's time to finally, and I think finally, pat myself on the back. A lot of entrepreneurs, maybe they don't do that too much. When I meet them, I always try to say, you realize what you've done? I say, look at all the amazing things, because they're always like, I've not done, I've not completed, I've not done something amazing, I've not helped enough people, I've not done this and that, and then you try to grab them for a second and say, do you realize what you've done? And that's always kind of an eye-opening thing, I think, for them and for myself, or when I see their face. It's interesting.
Well, I think a lot of entrepreneurism is driven by fear, a fear of failure.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that propels you quite a bit. And, I had a point I wanted to make, but I've forgotten it. So.
Well, it's interesting when we're young, what drives that fear of failure in some of us and not in so much in others. And it was like, I'll do this, and this is what I'll do. I think, as you were talking about boredom, I think what drives me is I don't want to be bored. I like to continually dabble in things. Now, and after we're done here, I'll tell you about the second business that we're launching, because it's like, it's almost been too much. It's all brand new. You're entering into introducing it to the world kind of a thing. And it's like, wow, man, that's a lot. But, dabbling in something a little bit different, or even a second, or an eighth location in your case is like, well, that's new, and that'll keep me kind of satisfied. But I was always thinking, I just couldn't imagine doing the same job day in and day out. And just
that's the entrepreneur mindset too, is you're constantly thinking in the future instead of the present.
Yeah. But
one curse of entrepreneurial success is that you have money. And when you start that second thing, you don't have, when we started Lucky Penny, I said, one of our biggest weaknesses is that we have money. So we're not going to have the same hunger. We're not going to have the same desperation. It seems like that doesn't make sense, but that hunger and desperation usually is what propels you to success, instead of, I'll keep feeding it. I'll keep feeding it. I'll keep feeding it. And your ego won't allow you to say, this is a failure. I need to kill this thing because you keep feeding it with money. However, if it was in the beginning, you wouldn't have any money left to give it, and it would naturally die.
Yeah.
So having money to start a new thing is usually a curse.
Something I love for people that will watch this channel, that, you guys always give really good advice. And I feel like the world is in the middle of everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Mine was sort of thrown at me, in a way where this club, was an asset purchase, personal training, little bit of an, it's like I'm managing my own business, but everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. And when they get to come on,
they don't want to do the work. They don't want to make the sacrifices.
That's true too. I've had people say, oh man, I've wanted to do what you've done. I'm like, well, if you want to own a gym, you should probably be exercising all the time.
Yeah.
And knowing what people want from exercise. How do you do that? Well, you got to be a trainer for quite a bit of time and learn and actually do and experience. And that was the only reason why all this ended up happening, I think, to me. And of course, then you have that day where there's an opportunity. Do you want this place or not?
Yep.
And how bad do I? And then you can make that decision. I always come to them and like, you can make that decision too. Do you want it or do you not? And if you do, that means go find the money in a month.
Yeah.
Just like you did, you know?
Yeah, a couple of things on that. You know, one, most of the time when people start thinking about, I want to be an entrepreneur, they look to this person that has already been a successful one, right?
Right.
And when you're looking at that successful one, you're not seeing what it took to get to that point,
Not
right?
at all.
So when you're mentoring someone about that, you're like, okay, pretty much you need to dedicate your entire mind and your hours to this business. Your personal relationships are going to suffer or they're just going to end. All of your time needs to be consumed with learning every aspect you can of the business.
Right.
Whatever revenue projections you have, cut them in half. Whatever expense projections you have, double them, and then see if that thing cash flows, because that is what's actually going to occur.
Sure.
But that's the hard work. That's not fun. That's not sexy. You can't brag about that on social media. But that's the reality of it. That is how you're going to succeed.
And truth be told, you know, I hate to burst the bubble, but a lot of the people that are out there is succeeding at being an entrepreneur are not on social media. They're knee deep in their business.
Correct.
There's no time.
Yeah. Hey, look, if you're not the one unlocking the door and the one locking the door at the end of the day, then you are not committed enough.
I'm with
And
you,
that's
man.
year after year after year.
Mm-hmm.
But it's tough when someone meets me and like, oh, wow, I want to live your life. Well, my life was very different for the first 20 years.
Sure.
Like
Sure.
you could find me at the store. That's where I was all of the time.
Oh yeah, yeah. And like you said, learning and just doing. But that is interesting the way that you put that too. But you know, it's all good. It's all good. But hey, Adam, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely, sure thing.
This has been wonderful. Thank you for telling us everything about your business and your regimens and everything you've done to get along to this point. It's really, I mean, for me, it's very admirable to talk to you. It's because I was aspiring. We have one location, but more would be nice, and but we appreciate your time. So
Absolutely.
Thank you. And any final words you want to throw out before we're done?
No, I hope that somebody takes one thing I said and can apply it positively in their life.
I think they
throw
will.
away all the other junk that I said that may not not apply.
I don't think any of it was junk, but thank you, man.
Sure thing.
And thank you all for tuning into Economic Fitness, and we look forward to seeing you on that next episode. Take care.